And welcome everybody to episode 11 of the Conference USA Podcast Roundtable. My name is Jake Gibson. I'm the host of the Pause Up podcast, and I will be your humble host for today's episode. If you want to learn more a bit about me and the official fan podcast of FIU Athletics, you can go and check out episode 10, which dropped last night and can be found on our YouTube channel. It was a lot of fun talking about some of the more well-versed members of Conference USA and New Mexico State thrown in there as well. But today we have some of the most newest members of CUSA. That's why this division is known as the future division. It'll be the future of the conference, maybe not. We'll figure things out. Realignment can be a tricky source, but this should be an absolutely fun episode. And again, thank you to everyone who watched it live on our X or on our YouTube channels, and definitely leave comments as the show progresses. We will definitely get to those when we can. And let's just get right into introducing some of these guys. So we have a couple of newcomers here in Ben Reynolds and Caleb Williams. And we have the two newcomers of Conference USA, and therefore the roundtable in both Daniel and Maddox. So let's get right into introducing you to both the veterans and the newcomers, starting off with Ben of the Flames Football Podcast. You either love him or you still love him, because he's our guy in the roundtable. But Ben, how's it going?
Yeah, I mean, it's been going good, man. Happy to be back. This is another year. I can't believe it. We're here, and man, just a big Liberty fan over here. Went to grad school there. For anybody who doesn't know me, and last year I did a lot of trolling, and the team didn't back it up, to say the least. But this year we feel a little bit better about a lot of positions. I actually had the fan appreciation today, a little scrimmage, and started this podcast about 4 years ago. So this will be technically my third full season, I believe, third or fourth. Fourth, and man, it's a pleasure to be back. Jake, I think you're muted, man.
Yep. Yes, sir, I was. Definitely. You got to love technical difficulties on the second episode in a row. But, Ben, I did want to ask you, where can people check out your stuff? What episodes do you usually drop for the Flames? And what in the world do you eat in Lynchburg, Virginia?
So start off. We have Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everything. I used to be pretty heavy on Twitter, but not so much anymore. We have a pretty scattered schedule. This year, though, we're trying to drop episodes on Sundays or Mondays, whatever it may be, and then maybe a little bit later in the week, depending on if there's any news. Of course, the midweek matchups are going to make things interesting, as always, every year. Mm-hmm. And then as for eating, personally, and this is not at all family related, my favorite restaurant in Lynchburg is Benjamin's here in Forest, Virginia. Best food around Lynchburg, in my opinion. So if you're ever in the area, tough thing is their schedule for their time, like to eat, is not the greatest. But the other one would be Brawl Burgers, which is a German restaurant, but burgers and wings and beer, that type of deal. So,
all righty, sounds good, Ben. And we will definitely probably get to know Liberty more and more as they look to defend their title or just stay in the mix there at the top of Conference USA. Now we're going to get into the host of the 700 Pelham Road Podcast, Caleb Williams. And no, your ears do not deceive you. That is actually not the starting quarterback for the Chicago-based NFL team that's looking to prove his worth in his second year. That is the humble host of the podcast that covers Jacksonville State. So, Caleb, take it away, my man. How are you? What do we got to know about you?
Good to be back. We've had a little bit of a, year-long hiatus with the podcast due to life, but no, it's good to be here. Just little things to know about me. I am the host, one of the two hosts of the 700 Pelham Road Podcast. My good friend and podcast partner, Jalen Cooper, is unable to be on the call today. He unfortunately got called into a night shift at his job. So, but in the meantime, you can deal with me and my general obnoxiousness. I did go to JSU for both my undergrad and my graduate degrees. I was a 6-year member of Marching Southerners. My entire family has gone to JSU, so it just kind of runs in the family for us. We started this podcast about a month before the start of our first FBS season back in 2023. Got the chance to cover the team at the New Orleans Bowl, which of course was the first bowl game in program history. Got the chance to actually be members of the media for that game, so it was podcast has taken us a long ways, and we're hoping this year to take it even further.
That's great to hear, Caleb. I'm absolutely stoked to hear that. Oh, and you didn't mention I'm coming into this assuming Jacksonville, Alabama is a good barbecue spot, but what would be your recommendations?
Yeah, Jacksonville absolutely has great barbecue. Really, really two places. So you're gonna have Rocket, which is out kind of as you come into town. It's kind of the old school barbecue up until about 3 years ago. They didn't even accept cards. And then on the backside of town, you have Cooter Brown's, which is more of your ribs and your kind of newer style barbecue. But that's really it. Everything else is you can get a lot of wings, kind of your traditional college town type food.
We love to see it and maybe eat it. So let's get into the pair of newcomers to Conference USA, and like I mentioned earlier, newcomers to the Roundtable. We'll start off with Maddox from the Growl from Springfield, Missouri, the land of Bass Pro Shops. What is going on, Maddox?
Oh, man, I'm doing great, Jake. Thank you very much for having us on the show here. It's our first time in Conference USA, like you mentioned, and we're just absolutely thrilled about the opportunity. The city of Springfield is going crazy right now with the opportunity that Missouri State has in front of it with moving up to the FBS from the FCS, and the entire town is just totally ecstatic. Nobody's seen anything like it before here. And we're just thrilled about the opportunity with this podcast as well and this roundtable. So, yeah, I'm Maddox Radosevich. I'm one of the hosts of the Growl podcast through the Missouri State school newspaper, The Standard here. And I run this podcast with Jaden Pennis, who is another member of our staff. He is our editor of the Standard newspaper, and we'll have a couple other hosts as well. But we like to release our shows on Monday following Saturday games, and then for Wednesday night games, we'll release those the Friday beforehand. So we're just totally excited about this opportunity and what is going to happen next for both moving up to the FBS and for joining Conference USA. It should be a really exciting season.
Yeah, I can only imagine being your first year in the conference, though you're no strangers to great talent being from that Missouri Valley Conference. So, I mean, this feels like maybe a blank slate as far as food options. I definitely don't have an immediate knowledge of what there is down in Springfield, but knowing that Johnny Morris is there, it's probably some good stuff.
I've got you covered, Jake, because this is the birthplace of cashew chicken. You definitely want to make sure you get some of that when you come down here. And then in addition to that, a couple good spots that I'll recommend. I've heard this from a couple of our players as well. Black Sheep Burgers is a hot spot here in Springfield. And you've also got Flame Steakhouse if you're looking for something a bit more elegant and a bit more pricey. Those are two spots you'll definitely want to hit up, but make sure you get that cashew chicken too.
I will definitely keep that in mind, Maddox. Thank you very much. Let's get into the other newcomer here in Conference USA. It is the Delaware Blue Hens, or is it Fighting Blue Hens? Something along those lines. We do have Daniel coming in from the Feathers and Field Goals podcast to let us know the truth. How you doing, Daniel?
I'm doing amazing, Jake. I'm so thrilled to be a part of this group with you all, and also with the Legacy Division as well. It's always a privilege to discuss the University of Delaware and Delaware football, especially in a forum like this, and in a way represent the University of Delaware as a graduate of the school right here this spring. So exciting to be an alum now for my first time in a football season as an alum, and it comes with Delaware at the FBS level. And I should note, I'm excited. Maddox and I should get along just fine because I also come from the student newspaper background. Worked as a sports editor at the paper at Delaware, and also was a sports reporter earlier in my time. I did student radio at WVUD, and just through all those forums in Newark, I got an even closer relationship with the fan base that I grew up in and still consider myself in the community of. And there is a lot of excitement and maybe some apprehension and nerves about the coming year in FBS football. So excited to talk about it with you all tonight.
Oh man, gotta love the love for the student media. I as well, former sports director at Panther Now, the newspaper at FIU. So seafood, what do you get up there in Delaware? I'm assuming some crabs. I'm assuming some gumbo, maybe other popular New England traditional food.
It is interesting, Jake, because I'm originally also from the state of Delaware. And so I've always kind of looked at it as not quite true New England up north, and then also not the South either. So right there in the mid-Atlantic. And so Maryland's a short jaunt from Newark. And so you cross over into the Chesapeake Inn area, you can get some great views of the marina and get some seafood on that front. So I recommend the crabs and everything that has to go with Maryland over that way. But in Newark, Delaware, the Main Street strip is absolutely the place to be. You got like sports bar style food, sports bar atmospheres for sure, campus bar atmospheres. And so it's a lot of fun. So you can kind of get the best of both worlds, maybe with the Florida seafood I know you're looking for, maybe. And then also the town vibe right there in Newark.
Definitely bring some clam chowder down here for the September 20th game. All righty. Well, Thank you, Daniel. Let's get into the main talking point of this episode, being these previews for each squad. So just like last night's episode, we're gonna go one-on-one with everyone here, starting off with Ben of the Fan the Flames Football Podcast. Now, Ben, those Liberty Flames, they've always had a pretty good coach in Jamie Chadwell, but now he's gonna have a difficult task of bringing this squad back and being one of the heavily favored teams to do good in Conference USA. How has he evolved as a coach over the years?
Yeah, man. Just in his short period of these past few years, he's really. I've seen him kind of change the team as a whole. You know, I mean, you're going from Freeze, and Freeze was. I mean, honestly, I've talked about this on my podcast a little bit. He seemed like he was just trying to patch together a team and trying to put something together that was going to allow him to be elevated to the P4 level. And he did a great job of doing that. Obviously, he got an offer to go to Auburn. However, with Chadwell, it seems like he's trying to change this whole culture from the inside out and have guys who are going to be Liberty guys and guys who will stay. We had very limited transfers in the portal. Most of the transfer portal guys were either not really going to another team that was at the same level or higher. And then he also brought in some amazing talent from both the P4 level and the other G5 starting talent. So he's just really done a great job, and it speaks to his, I guess, vision for this team. And I'm probably the most excited about this team that I've ever been. In my short time of doing this and in my 6 years of being a Flames fan, I guess you could say. I've always followed them, but not quite to the level until I started going to grad school back in 2019. And, you know, Chadwell, he built a lot of great teams, both at Charleston Southern and at Coastal Carolina. So he has the resume of also bringing in a lot of pro talent as well that you know, converts to the NFL, especially at Coastal, and I think we'll start seeing that at Liberty as well. It's been truly amazing.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. They've definitely they walked in the CUSA and were absolutely ready to dominate as soon as they got here. But something about Liberty and Conference USA that I don't think none of us have ever seen before is an offense that's not going to be run by Caden Salter, who is now hoping to light it up with Coach Prime over in Colorado. So who's going to be the guy now, and who are going to be some of the other leaders on that offense?
Yeah, it's very interesting right now. We got two different guys. Ryan Berger completely impressed me today. He has really increased in his poise And I'm not sold on him as a starter yet because you got someone like Ethan Vasco who has done it at Coastal Carolina. And watching the tape of at Coastal Carolina, honestly, I don't think he had the receiver room that he does now at Liberty. We're bringing in two guys from UNLV who also played at Texas, and Casey Kane, and then Jamari Person from Colorado State. I think two guys who are going to elevate this receiver room. And then we got guys who are younger who are now more experienced and they look more developed. We didn't lose all but one receiver with any type of real experience to the transfer portal this year. Well, one was also a graduate as well, and Trayon Sibley. So, Caden, moving on, I'm not really too concerned about because of multiple things. He didn't look his best last year. It didn't seem like he wanted to be at Liberty anymore, which is fine. I wish him the best at Colorado. However, going forward, I think the biggest thing on this offense that we're kind of looking for right now is who's going to step up in the running back room and who's going to become the number one receiving threat. I think that offensive line led by Aaron Fenimore will be able to create the same production for a running back, but without Cooley or Lucas, it's who's going to step up and be that big running back this year.
Yeah, and flipping on over to the defense now, they were consistently a good bunch last season, but with all these new additions to the offense, if Liberty was an offense first, defense second team last season, do you think it's going to be flipped this year where the defense, which again will look to stay strong, are they going to have to lead the squad now?
Yes, I really do. I think early on, I mean, I said this in my podcast earlier, defense will always be ahead of the offense. Today looked very vanilla on the offense, but the defense looked very, very tight and ready to roll. And I believe that this starting at the defensive line, you got transfers in from both App State and NC State, and Marcus Clark and DJ Jackson, who are going to make a difference on this line. Marcus Clark actually started at App State for a good point, and then he had injuries last year. As long as he stays healthy, he's going to be huge. You return a Bryce Dixon, who's been starting since a freshman. He's now a junior. And then you got CJ Bazille, who's a edge rusher. We call him the Joker, a la our fan student section group, the Jokers, and an homage of them. And he's going to make a big difference, not only on the field, but off the field. He's been a starter for 4 years, just about now. I think maybe with the exception of his freshman year when we had Darrell Johnson as the starter. And then our linebacker room, we're 6 deep. Like, this is the deepest linebacking room that we've ever had. We have guys from Vandy and Wisconsin returning, and Aiden Vaughn and Ethan Crisp. You got Joseph Carter, who's a former walk-on, who's got the Liberty DNA. He wants to be. He's a guy who stayed with the Flames. He probably had offers to go elsewhere. And then you got 2 other guys in Michael Pollard and Deuce Spurlock. Spurlock coming from Florida, but they actually both played on Michigan's championship team. And Michael Pollard actually had some playing time on that championship team. And then you got a guy in Darrell Farrar, who was the starting middle linebacker for App State too. So it's nice to steal a couple guys from App State because they're Sun Belt, right? And then on the back end, you got Brylan Green, who's again been starting since a freshman, and Mo Williams, who's been a starter since a sophomore with Kobe Singleton. Like, these guys are very experienced, and I think right now, I was looking on Phil Steele, I think we might have the most returning on offense and defense for starters for the conference. But also, Caleb, I appreciate the Orange Cat energy as well. And here's the thing to top it off. I really think this team could be improved on defense and might be the best defense we've had since maybe 2022. So,
well, Ben, you're definitely preaching to the choir about how great Liberty can be. That's crazy. You have a former NASCAR driver in Casey Kane now taking reps for Liberty as well. That's absolutely insane. No, but Is Liberty winning the CUSA title realistic in your eyes? Is that something they can absolutely do with the roster and coaching staff the Flames have?
I think the floor is a return to the championship game at the minimum. I really do. I think that's the expectation, at this point. However many games it takes to win to get there, I don't know. I mean, you really have limited losses in this conference. And now since you're at 12 teams, I mean, it's not getting any easier. Regardless of, Delaware and Missouri State not being eligible for it, those are still losses you can't lose to them because, like that's not good for your record. So, and we play both of them this year. So, but and I don't expect them to be someone to just run over. I mean, last year we lost to Kennesaw State. So anything can happen at this point.
Listen to us talking about CUSA titles while the two newcomers in Maddox and Daniel, even if their teams go above and beyond, they're still not going to be able to this year. A bit unfortunate. Yeah. Ben, thank you so much for filling us in.
Yes, sir.
On the Flames. We're definitely probably going to be hearing a lot more about Ben as the season rolls on. And I did want to briefly mention our idea of episodes as the football season rolls on. It's basically going to be game of the week scenario where our good host Jake Bolden from Blue Raider Podcast sits down with a few of the guys from the game of the week. So for week 0, it would obviously be Western, Topper Talk, and March to the Pod, and then the next week we'd figure out the game of the week and then roll from there. Keep it going, keep it consistent. I think that's the plan moving forward, but it's definitely a work in progress. But speaking of work in progress, I guess we have to talk about the Jacksonville State Gamecocks. It's turnover city over there as far as new players, but don't take my word for it. Let's hear from the man himself, Caleb Williams, and the mascot of the 700 Pelham Road Podcast being his cat. But Caleb, let's just start off with the hiring of Charles Kelly, the former player and coordinator of the Gamecocks at some point. Give us a bit of a brief description on him and what he brings to the table there at Jax State.
Yeah, so Coach Kelly, one of the unique things about him, he's never been a head coach at the FBS level. 57 years old, and he's been defensive coordinator, linebackers coach, DBs coach. Even for a brief stint back in the 80s, he was our offensive coordinator for a couple seasons. So he's been around the block, obviously coached for Jimbo Fisher, Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher again at Texas A&M. He coached for Deion Sanders. So he's truly been around the block with some of the most influential recruiters in the country. And he himself has won a Recruiter of the Year award when he was at Colorado. So, he brings a very different style of coaching than Rich Rodriguez did. Obviously, Coach Rodriguez, primary play caller. Everyone knows exactly what you're getting offensively. And that's how Rich Rod's going to be, regardless of where he is. Coach Kelly, on the other hand, more of a CEO. He's going to hire in coordinators. He's going to really boost up the recruiting, and then let the coordinators do a lot of the the game planning. And I think both molds are perfectly fine. Obviously, we won a conference championship, with that play caller style of head coach. I'll be intrigued to see, how Coach Kelly handles game days this year. I think one of the unique things, and you mentioned turnover, this is truly a brand new roster. Really there are only a handful of returners on offense, and none of them are at quarterback. We have a couple, Michael Petway and Brock Rechsteiner returning at wide receiver, Andrew Paul returning at running back, but then we have newcomer Cam Cook at running back, who we think is going to be insane. Him and Andrew Paul truly might be the most talented backfield that we have had in school history. And mainly just because, these are two guys who were 4 stars out of high school. Cam Cook obviously played at TCU. Andrew Paul played at Georgia. Like these guys have done everything they need to prove they're a good player. But the roster as a whole, we have no idea where the touches are going to go. Crazy enough, the only position that we know is pretty much set is quarterback. We know, and I hate that our friends over at Topper Talk couldn't be on this so that I could give them some crap about it. But Gavin Wimsatt is the starting quarterback at JSU.
Nice.
That's kind of been the case in spring. Even Coach Kelly confirmed it, that he was the number 1 guy all spring. It's one of those years we don't know what to expect. We don't know what the schemes are going to look like. Clint Trickett, depending on what part of his career you look at, you could end up with 4 or 5 different offenses. He played for Dana Holgerson in the air raid. He coached for Charles Huff and kind of ran more of like a pro style approach because that's what Coach Huff wanted him to do. He most recently was at Georgia Southern and coached under Ryan Applin, who was their offensive coordinator, and learned, the Hugh Freeze RPO tempo system. So, it's going to end up being a brand new system. None of us know what it's going to look like until the UCF game there on the 28th. Defensively, we're not worried. That's where Coach Kelly's at his best.
Okay.
He's one of the best defensive backs coaches on the planet. It took everything. It took everything that JSU had to get him to leave Auburn because they did not want him to leave. They were prepared. Look, being from Auburn, I've grown up an Auburn fan. I'm very in tune with that program as well.
Okay.
They were going to pay him a lot of money to stay and promote him to co-defensive coordinator. That's how much they wanted him. And the chance to come back to a school he grew up close to, obviously was just a little bit too much to turn down. But as a whole, I hate to say it's mostly unknown and it's wait and see, but it truly is unknown and wait and see. It's not like Rich Rod where you know what you're getting year in and year out, regardless of who's on the field. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's a lot of teams, not just in Conference USA, but the Group of 5 have that struggle. It's just the way college football rolls these days. But I'm glad you mentioned Clint Trickett, the new OC. It's an almost completely new roster. I've been thinking about who could be some of the leaders of that team, some of the captains, and I'm struggling with that. Can you fill me in, Caleb?
The biggest name you're going to get is Michael Petway. He started at JSU. He's going to end his career at JSU. Depending on the year, he's either been one of the 1 or 2 go-to guys, or he's at least been, one of those rotation receivers early in his career. But I mean, he's a Gamecock for life kind of player. He's not going anywhere. He has been loyal to JSU. When I'm not privy to whether or not he had offers to try to get into the portal. We know that schools are tampering to get players into the portal. So I don't know if he had any of those offers, but he has stayed at JSU for his entire career, and I imagine he'll be, if not the number one leader, one of the top leaders in the locker room. Gavin Wimsatt, I hate to just pile it on a new kid, who hasn't been here but for a few months, but starting quarterback, they have to have command of the locker room. And if they don't, they probably shouldn't be the starting quarterback. That's just the nature of the position. So I'd say you're going to see a lot from Michael Petway and Gavin Wimsatt. But other than that, there's just so much turnover. It's tough to tell who's really going to, take that leadership position. So I guess we'll find out as the season goes on.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the 2 names I would say the most.
Well, all of this to say, whipping up on Western Kentucky in the CUSA title game seems like a far cry from the expectations for the Gamecocks this season. Like, do you at least think making a bowl game is possible in your eyes, or is this what looks like a rebuild year going to be even worse than what a lot of people are thinking?
So I don't necessarily agree with I've seen a lot of predictions having us at 4-8, 5-7. I don't necessarily agree with that. I do think the schedule is still fairly favorable. Ben mentioned just how good Liberty is going to be, and there's absolutely no question about it. But we get Liberty at home, right? So that should help a little bit. We don't have to go to Lynchburg this year. We're replacing all these guys, but most of the conferences as well. It's truly a wide open conference. I don't think we're going to go 10-2, 11-1, and just run through the conference. I think I tweeted out on our sidelines page. I'm not predicting anyone to do that. I think the conference is so wide open that it's tough to say any one team is going to just run circles around the rest of the league.
Mm-hmm.
I do think a bowl game is a fair expectation. I'm not asking for, like I said, I'm not asking for 10-2. With the way that the staff is really trying to build towards the future, Charles Kelly's kind of the one guy that we've hired where I've always said he's not looking for a promotion. I mean, he's 57 years old. Who knows how much longer he's going to be coaching. I don't know that we're going to go back to the conference title. I don't know that we're even going to win the conference title. But I do at least expect a bowl game. And I think the expectations for the team are we need to make a bowl game. We need to prove that we're still a winning program. And hopefully, hopefully we'll get to show that on the 28th. We can go down to Orlando and give Scott Frost a warm welcome back to Orlando.
Yeah, that's definitely. Hey, I mean, two things. One, if you're going to make it to a bowl game, make it to the Boca Bowl. It's only a short drive for me. I can go check out the Gamecocks in person. And number two, I mean, it's cool that you bring up that Liberty game, which is at home. I mean, we have Liberty at home, but you don't see me prancing around that being like, oh, yeah. I guess let me throw this to Ben real quick because you put something a little bit interesting in the private chat. But I guess that also leads me into another question here. A bonus question for Ben Reynolds, but who is the biggest threat to Liberty in the conference?
He isn't here right now, but I would say Western Kentucky.
Okay,
yeah, I would say that. Yeah,
right.
Hey, listen, I like Jacksonville State because early on the travel down to Jacksonville State at 11 o'clock, what the kickoff is going to be. It's going to be hot. It's going to be not the most fun. And we're coming off of FCS, and then we have a really tough start. Then we go to JMU. I mean, we go to Bowling Green, then we host JMU, and then we go to ODU. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of travel in a short period, and I don't want our boys to be looking ahead. But, I mean, they're still going to be able to run the dang ball. I can tell you that much, Jax State will be. So that's why I say that.
All righty. Well, good to hear, Ben. I mean, I'm sure Topper Talk will clip this and use it as ammo if necessary, but that's enough about CUSA title talk because we have a couple programs that, like I mentioned earlier, unfortunately cannot be there due to silly rules and silly regulations, but we love them anyway, and we're excited for them to see what they can do in their first season here in Conference USA. Let's start with Maddox with the Growl talking about the Missouri State Bears. Now, as I get everything ready here, Maddox, I'm going to tell you, I listened to all the coaches at CUSA Media Day, but I got to say, I think Ryan Beard may have made the biggest impression on me in that media day. Just talk about him as a coach and what we can expect from the man.
Well, Ryan Beard, at the time when he was hired in December of 22, he was the youngest coach to be hired in Missouri State history at 34 years old, and he's totally taken the city by storm. Everybody loves him. We're lucky to have him here. And he started off in his first season with 4 wins, and immediately after that followed it up with an 8-win season, and that included an 8-game winning streak. So he's just totally changed the culture here, and it's unbelievable how quickly it's happened. And again, lots of that has to deal with the fact that Missouri State is moving up to the FBS as well from the FCS. But at the same time, Coach Beard is really taking the reins on that culture shift as well. And you can see it just in his play calling, in the way that he talks about the team, and the way that he advertises the squad. I mean, all you'll hear all throughout campus is out hit, out hustle. And this year, the theme of the team that he's trying to implement is prove it. And there's a big mentality of the Missouri State football team this year proving it, stepping up from FCS to FBS and trying to go and play with the big dogs at the top level. And I think at the heart, he wants this to be an impactful first season. And it's not at all a surprise. He's a defensive-minded coach. He used to be the defensive coordinator for Missouri State. And he's got a lot of energy. Again, we're just lucky to have him. And he's great things with the roster. It's going to be really exciting to see what he does in his first year coaching at this level.
Yeah. And, well, I want to take you back to I believe it was May the 9th when we put out the all roundtable CUSA QB rankings, and there was absolute heresy coming from the comment section talking about how Jacob Clark didn't make the top 6. Are we fools to not put the first team Missouri Valley quarterback in the top 6? Like, what can we expect from this guy?
I think it's totally safe to say that he should be a member of that top 6. I mean, you're talking about a guy that set single season records at Missouri State for passing yards, completions, and touchdowns. And, that is just magnificent in its own right. And not to mention that he's one of the most experienced quarterbacks, not just in this conference, but in the entire Division I college football slate. So I think he's going to turn a lot of heads. He's a smart player. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot. Missouri State threw 6 interceptions all season last year, takes care of the football. And I think that's going to be a key step for Missouri State going into Conference USA is winning the turnover battle. They did a great job of that in the Missouri Valley Conference. And I think it's one of the reasons why they won so many close games last year. Sometimes it can come down to just 1 or 2 possessions. And when you have as good special teams as Missouri State has, then that's going to help out a lot as well. So I think Jacob Clark is going to do wonderful things. He lost his 2 top receivers in Hunter Wood and Lance Mason, but Jamarie Robinson, he's going to stick around, and he was one of his favorite targets last year. So I think another aspect of this team that isn't getting talked about a lot, though, Jake, is the backfield. You've got guys like Shamarie Lawrence transferring in from FIU.
Yeah, we know him.
And then on top of that, you've got guys like King Davis coming in for his first season out of Miami, Florida. I mean, this is a guy that averaged over 10 yards per carry in his senior year of high school. And, they're picking up right where Thunder and Lightning, as we like to call it last year, the backfield that we had. So I think there are going to be a lot of great things coming out of the running backs as well. And again, just not something that's been talked about a lot with this Missouri State team. Everybody wants to talk about Jacob Clark and Jamarie Robinson, but I think the backfield really could be the key. It was a big part of the 2024 roster. And if they're going to be successful again this year, then they're going to play key roles in that as well.
That definitely sounds great. By the way, while we were getting on with the talk about Missouri State, Caleb Williams had to leave the stream a bit early. I mean, it makes sense. He has to prepare for a preseason game against Buffalo tomorrow at 8 o'clock. But no, definitely check out at 700 Pelham Road on all socials. That they mentioned, they're going to get ready to go with the Jax State talk there. So just wanted to point that out real quick. But Maddox, as confident as I do feel in the Missouri State offense, and I'm not just saying that because of the Shamarie Lawrence pickup, but it definitely helps. But as confident as I am about the offense, it's the defense that feels like, it could be a rebuild year for them. It's my words. I want to know if it's your words. What do they need to do to stay in it with not just CUSA opponents, but obviously that non-con schedule from hell to open up as an FBS program?
Well, for starters, last year's defense allowed over 30 points per game. It was definitely the weak point of the squad. The offense was always trying to outperform what the defense was doing. And on top of that, you're losing your top 5 tacklers from the 2024 squad. So already at a big disadvantage. And as you mentioned, not an easy schedule at all, going through the gauntlet right away. Welcome to the FBS just immediately with USC and Marshall. And then first home game as a member of the FBS, you get SMU, a team that was in the college football playoff last year. So I think that tough schedule will help them in the long run, though. I think it'll be a good prep for Conference USA. And I think there are some leaders on this defense like JJ O'Neal that are going to step up, and hopefully they can have that good leadership shine on the younger guys. I think the linebacker crew is probably going to be the most questionable part because, again, you're just losing lots of your best tacklers from last year, and that's probably going to be the spot where they're going to have to fill in the most. But, again, Ryan Beard, as a defensive-minded coach, I think he'll be able to work around some of those issues and hopefully put up a good enough defensive performance to where the offense can still go out and do its thing and steal the show.
Oh, man, I miss seeing those newspapers on my table every day at the Panther Now offices. No, but that non-con is absolutely crazy. To take on a classic Big Ten team and then USC to open up the season and then SMU right after that is absolutely insane. I need to have a discussion with the schedule makers who put all this into motion years and years and years ago. But, well, like we talked about earlier, unfortunately, the NCAA is a little silly and no CUSA title game. And unless something drastic happens, no bowl game either in your first season here in FBS. So what would be a good first season in your eyes for Missouri State?
I think this team is capable of winning 4 or 5 games, and that would be a success in my mind for the first year moving into this conference and to the FBS. You're coming off a season where you would have been eligible for the FCS playoffs, winning those 8 games and competing in the toughest FCS conference in the entire slate of teams and the entire slate of conferences. I mean, it's basically the SEC of FCS football. And they were competitive. And, even the games that they lost, they were against top teams. You've got North Dakota State, lost the very first game of the year against Montana, and then had FBS Ball State mixed in as well. So I think this team should be ready for the competition, and lots of people are already counting Missouri State out. But I think they're going to turn some heads. This is a talented roster. Again, you've got a veteran quarterback, which is probably the most important thing going into the top division of college football. And I think Jacob Clark is the perfect guy to lead the Bears into this new conference, into this new time of Missouri State football. And you've got a coach who's all fired up, ready to go. He's got a lot of confidence as well. So I think this team is capable of winning a few games. Of course, the non-conference schedule is going to be difficult, but you get fans packed into Placer Stadium, and it's a difficult place to play. Of course, it doesn't house as many as some of the other schools in CUSA, but still, these fans are passionate and they're ready to see Missouri State football succeed.
Yeah, well, it's definitely going to be fun to see what happens over at Springfield, the home of Bass Pro Shops, O'Reilly's, cassette tapes, and major snake incidents. But all right, we'll definitely keep an eye, and definitely from the FIU perspective, October 29th. I believe that's going to be our last midweek game as well. So definitely keep an eye out on those Bears. But we have one more newcomer from Conference USA to welcome to the party. It is none other than the Feathers and Field Goal podcast led by Daniel. So Daniel, I'll let you take it away here. I mean, it's Joe Flacco U. I get it. It's a pretty historic football program at a pretty historic university. But give us the lowdown on the head coach, Ryan Carty. Been there a while. What he's going to bring to the table here in the first year of Conference USA.
Well, thanks very much, Jake. And Coach Ryan Carty at Delaware is at his alma mater. He's become a head coach at his alma mater. I think it's rather likely that if this opportunity at Delaware hadn't come up, Coach Carty may have continued in his offensive coaching progression, just coordinating. And I say just as if that's some slight. No, being a coordinator possibly all the way up to the power conference ranks, because Coach Carty has that strong of a QB development and offensive background. But he finds himself as the head coach at Delaware, and he really takes after a previous head coach, Casey Keeler, a number of years ago, who I know is a name that's well known in this roundtable from his time coaching Sam Houston, who was coaching Delaware prior to that in the FCS level. And so Coach Keeler, an alum of Delaware, and Coach Carty, who played for Coach Keeler on that 2003 FCS national championship team, you now see Ryan Carty back in Newark, dating back to the 2022 season. And it's been a fun ride, I think, for Delaware fans. The Delaware offense has really delivered with a variety of different starting quarterbacks for Coach Carty and his staff. So the way I look at things now, I think it's very apparent that Coach Carty takes very seriously the chance to shepherd this historic program into the Division 1A level. I'll call it for a little bit of a throwback term.
G-Fed went to Delaware Stadium not that long ago. Couldn't find a single statue, single thing with Joe Flacco's name and likeness on it. Tell me something. They're cooking something with that.
Well, G-Fed, I salute him. He does great work. I always enjoy watching his videos and especially trips to Delaware Stadium. But what he needed to do was find a way, if he could, and I'll advise him on this. Maybe we can host him. If you're seeing this, G-Fed, Bryce and I will come host you, and we'll show you around the Whitney Athletic Center, which is the multi-sport, multi-purpose athletic complex attached to the home facade of Delaware Stadium, and inside the Whitney Athletic Center, that's where the Flacco Family Strength and Conditioning Center is. So there's a massive picture of Joe Flacco's number 5 in his uniform playing for Delaware. So there is Joe represented at the stadium, just on the student athlete side. And it really is a stadium that does have a number of tributes to the legends of the program. Bust of head coach Tubby Raymond, legendary 300-game winner, is there at the stadium as well. So as you alluded to, it's a program that does hang its hat on tradition, and now the tradition will be tested like it's never been before.
And I think Delaware is coming in and already has probably the coolest logo in all of CUSA. I mean, it is pretty sick, but what's not sick is the amount of head scratching I had to do when I did my research to find out who in the world's going to be the quarterback for the Delaware Blue Hens. Can you please let us know once and for all who's going to start for the Blue Hens against, I believe, Delaware State to open up the season?
Jake, I don't blame you one bit for, looking in from afar and just seeing so many different names with a high number of stats in the box sheet for Delaware. I do expect it will be at quarterback Zach Marker starting for the Blue Hens, a player who originally arrived at Delaware prior to the 2023 season, coming in from a JUCO all the way out in Iowa. So it's a heck of a storyline that an Iowan becomes a Blue Hen, and that's Zach Marker. He is not formally or officially anointed publicly as the incumbent starter, but he is one of 3 quarterbacks in the past couple of years who has gotten starter type reps, whether it's been an injury or 2 that's happened around the room, even Marker's own eligibility was kind of being managed, making sure that he could be part of this 2025 roster is my impression. So Zach Marker is one of a pair of quarterbacks I expect to see at the top of the Delaware depth chart, along with Nick Minicucci, who has started really high intensity games for Delaware as well. A younger player, Minicucci, with Marker being that older type who's been in college football since his JUCO days. So I do expect that it'll be Zach Marker, a mobile quarterback mold, but a player who can really stand in the pocket and make every throw that's asked of him in Delaware's offense. So I do think Delaware fans, although technically they saw the program lose the previous starter, Ryan O'Connor, stepping away from the team, well, concluding his undergrad time at Delaware and moving on from college football. That's what Ryan O'Connor chose over the offseason. You do, in a way, have one starter lost at quarterback, but then one starter also returning. So sort of maybe that 1A, 1B scenario where the 1B is back in action. And that's been a player who I think fans have been excited about in Zach Marker for some time.
Yeah, I just realized I kind of gave Maddox hell for the non-con schedule that Missouri State has, but Delaware's got a pretty rough one as well, going to see Coach Prime and maybe a bit of Caden Salter over at Colorado, and then Wake Forest down the line. Who knows if there'll be an upset alert for that? You never know. But defensively, the linebackers look good. They look really good. They look ready for, as you said, 1A play. But is this defense still, as a whole unit, ready to take on the rest of CUSA?
That's a question that's really been on a lot of minds in Newark, Jake, because the defense that Delaware brings, it'll be what they call the hashtag 3 high life. With Coach Manny Rojas coordinating the defense. So you'll see the 3 high safeties predominantly. You'll see a set of 2 or 3 linebackers. You'll see the pair of corners. So it really becomes the 3-3-5 base alignment. But then again, Delaware does want to present multiple fronts and be versatile and try to confuse the opposition with this type of scheme. At linebacker, there is that veteran leadership. Dylan Traynor has been in the middle of the linebacking group for quite some time. Gavin Mole really took a step forward last season and now has his kind of preseason recognition at linebacker as well. So you see the pair of Mole and Traynor. And then the safeties, I think, is really what defines the Delaware defense because of that 3 high life and because you have a talent like KT Say back there, who was probably the one name at safety for Delaware among a number of talented safeties, but one of those Delaware players who I thought would wind up on the CUSA roundtable team that we voted on did not wind up making it, but it wouldn't surprise me at all as long as KT Say stays healthy. I would expect that he may very well wind up with the official all-conference recognition by the end of the year. Say should be in the middle of that safety alignment. He's really rangy, long, athletic. Hassan Manning Jr. is also at safety for Delaware, was an FBS level recruit, also at safety for the Blue Hens in that starting 3. I expect to see Jason Scott, who is coming off his first season at Delaware since transferring from Boston College. So it's a pretty deep Delaware safety group. I could go beyond those starters, but and those aren't official starters, but just names to know and that we've seen. And beyond that, I do think Delaware appreciates that it has although it lost Tyron Herring to the NFL at cornerback, it does have a returnee like Nate Evans, who originally transferred in from NC State and has been at Delaware for over a year by now. You look at the other corner spot, Corey Lyde is a cornerback who began his college career at Wisconsin. So I think the Blue Hens feel as though the personnel and the returnees and the familiarity is there in order to have a strong start on defense, but it's a very challenging Conference USA schedule. Delaware may well have drawn the toughest slate in the league. And so we're going to find out just how much maybe fans' apprehension about the 3-3-5 at this top level is going to be proven or disproven. It remains to be seen. Delaware did have its struggles against the best FCS competition in terms of defending some of those top programs, the way they can run the ball right at you. Maddox knows in the MVFC what that's like. So I do think that defensively there's going to be a big scrutiny on Delaware because the program identity at the top does start with a really aggressive offense and what's been a successful offense.
Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned all those players that have the potential to be some all-conference guys, because I feel like there's kind of a chip on Delaware's shoulder after we put out our all-roundtable offense, defense, and special teams, and Delaware was the only school to not have a single player make it to those lists. It kind of blew my mind. Granted, we got lucky. We had Brian Blades as a DB, and that was about it, but well, I asked Maddox this, so it's only fair I ask the same to you, Daniel. No bowl games unless something Louisiana Tech last year kind of happens, and no title game. But still, what would be a good first season in your eyes for the Blue Hens?
The default bare minimum expectation every year when it comes to Delaware football, and this was even more so in the FCS level, but there's no reason to be sub 500 as a Blue Hen. I mean, that's been historically, losing seasons are unacceptable to Delaware's program. And so I know the program wants to do everything it can to make a 500 or better statement and be that bowl eligible team if there weren't enough teams and if it comes to needing a slot filled and all the other scenarios play out. But setting those aside, I do think that I have a few games circled for can Delaware reach a goal, and that's not a stated program goal. I don't think Delaware has come out publicly and said, "Oh, we are going to need to hit this number of wins." Which team would do that, right? But I do think as a fan base, there is that hope that hey, if the team wins 4 or 5 games, then we better have seen the eye test that shows they were just a couple plays away, right? It's not as if they were getting blown the doors off in the losses. So there's something there. Some folks would say for Delaware, 4 or 5 wins and the eye test being good, that's a positive. But I'm in the camp of, I grew up on Delaware football where, losing season, like I said, it's just not in the dictionary. There have been a couple of those in my lifetime. I don't mean to sound like it's impossible to happen, but I'm just laying out kind of what's been the expectation. And so I'm circling a UConn game for Delaware early in the year, a program that's improved so much in the G6 or G5 level in our region. At UConn, they're a tougher game than when Delaware scheduled it, I really would say. So UConn will be a big indicator coming off of the Colorado game that Delaware has to play on the road. So if Delaware can protect home turf against UConn, can it parlay that into momentum down into a hot game in Miami against FIU? That remains to be seen as well. I think somewhere in there, Delaware has to split matchups against FIU, Louisiana Tech at home, UTEP at home late in the year where it's cold and maybe the Miners are out of their element playing in Newark in late November. Those are kinds of matchups, not to mention Middle Tennessee at home on an odd weekday there where, hey, a team traveling for a midweek, that can be tricky too. I know Middle Tennessee brings back Vadiato at quarterback. And so I don't mean to ramble too much about the schedule, but those are some games to circle, I think, for Delaware. It's like the record in those games will decide whether Delaware is able to at least hit 6-6. As you look at it and you see, okay, there are 2 power opponents this year, that really makes it that much more of a focus on those kind of possibly within striking distance mid-range CUSA games.
Well, I'm definitely interested to see what Delaware can pull off in their first year, along with those increased travel costs, because as I'm sure you're finding out, it's a pretty spread out conference CUSA is, but it's good to have you here. So, well, with that out of the way, here we go. Well, with that out of the way, let's get right back into the swing of the year. So we're done with the one-on-ones. I guess now I'll just kind of open it up to any thoughts from you guys, or maybe I'll just be like, so Ben, let's talk about that non-con. No, I'm just playing with you. But no, do you 3 fellas have any final thoughts about either your own teams or maybe some of the other fellas we have here?
Excited to play both Missouri State and Delaware. Honestly,
Same.
It's cool. It's cool to have y'all both on the schedule. I know people. The only thing that sucks, No offense to you guys, but we did sacrifice not playing Middle Tennessee and Western Kentucky, which we always like playing those two. Mostly not. I love talking to Moff and I love talking with Jake. It's good that I at least get to talk to one of the Jakes this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fact that you bring that up does remind me. I think Delaware is very excited about. It's not a favorable schedule in terms of the difficulty of it, but having opponents from the Legacy Division, we're calling it, like Western Kentucky coming to UD for family weekend for a Friday night CBS Sports Network game. I mean, I know the CUSA staff must have kind of had their thinking caps on for that. I mean, it's a nice spot for Delaware, certainly on the field, a very difficult challenge, but a big opportunity for the university to turn out a great crowd against a premier opponent. And so I think that's part of the buzz too, getting Louisiana Tech and UTEP to come to Newark before they leave the conference. So just a note on scheduling that you inspired, Ben, there. I do think there's part of the, I wouldn't say fear on the fan base, but definitely a mix of some nerves and also the excitement of having those kinds of names coming into the stadium in Newark, even without getting to see Missouri State in what would have been a cool head-to-head. We were looking forward to newcomers. But anyhow, I just thought I'd make that note.
I hope that depending on I hope that Delaware and whoever else plays UTEP and Louisiana Tech gives them a warm welcome. I mean, warm goodbye. Hopefully they, just because they're leaving us, I'm a little petty. I hope they end up at the bottom, to say the least.
I'll make one final remark about scheduling too, and if this didn't come across before, then I'll just repeat it. But this is by far the most exciting schedule that Missouri State football has ever had. I mean, names like USC and Marshall, SMU, and then getting to play Liberty, going to Lynchburg in the first year being in Conference USA, that's a real treat as well, to get to go out there and see the facilities and see what one of the top teams in the conferences is all about. So it's just going to be a great first year for Missouri State football as a whole. And again, the city of Springfield hasn't seen anything like this before. So it's going to turn the entire part of this state upside down.
Well said there. Well said there. So, yeah, definitely enjoy these legacy divisions and future divisions while they last. Alrighty, guys, fun episode. That was episode 11 of the CUSA Podcast Roundtable. Again, thank you to everyone who watched this alongside episode 10 last night. And like I mentioned earlier, from here on out, we might have episodes in which it'll be just Jake Bolden or myself alongside a couple of pods from the CUSA Game of the Week. It should be a lot of fun, but there's still plenty of discussions to be had, plenty of hot takes to be had, as we've seen from the all roundtable and all QB posts. But thank you very much for watching, and we will see you all next time.